Hello and welcome to the Cryptocurrency News channel. I suppose this video would be better done in a stream with like Q&A, but the thing is I want to talk about Elizabeth Warren, Gary Gensler, the corruption, and how they'll affect crypto. But there's going to be a little twist to it because, in my opinion, crypto has largely done this to itself as well. So let's actually go over the overriding accusations right now. So it was found that Elizabeth Warren did have some kind of like text message or like a phone call with Gary Gensler that actually where she stated that was the questions that she was going to ask during a hearing and gave him suggested answers. Now, obviously, this is priming him to give the correct responses during the hearing, which obviously is wrong. Now, this isn't the first time this has been done by Congress. Between a congressperson and basically the head of an agency. This has been done multiple times before. It's corrupt, it's wrong, but is anything going to be done about it? Probably not, because most people don't really even hear about this, and they never really prosecute these things. When it's happened in the past, it got a little bit of press, and then it just kind of like got swept under the rug. I think this stuff actually happens a lot more than people think. And realistically, it's only the people in the crypto industry that really know about it, and most the country is not in the crypto industry. And that goes, and that's my second point. I think a lot of people in the crypto industry thinks like this is the major news event of the world. It really isn't. Only a very small part of the country really cares about this. And the thing is like, I think we like to act like everyone in the country is enraged at Gary Gensler and enraged at the prospect that government's trying to regulate crypto. That's not true. Like that's only true within crypto YouTube and crypto Twitter. And if you bury yourself in crypto YouTube and crypto Twitter, that's kind of like the image you're going to get for the rest of the world. That's also not true at all. If you just go out in regular society, get away from the computer, which I know some of you find it hard to do, but like, get away from the computer, go out in regular society and talk to people. Very, very few people care about crypto. Even like, in my generation, like millennials or even like, Gen Z people 10, 12 years younger than me. Very few of them are actually into crypto. And actually the overriding opinion out there right now, from what I can hear from them is like, yeah, it does need regulation, which I know a lot of you don't like. It does actually need regulation. And there is a lot of scams out there and there needs to be something done about it. And yes, the government agencies should actually have power to regulate them. I know you guys won't agree with it, but that's like actually the overriding sentiment of the public right now. And like, we're like 5% of the public. There's the other 95% when you guys are like shouting like, yeah, this is completely corrupt, which it probably is. And, there shouldn't be so much government control. There's the other 95% of people that don't think like that because, the crypto community is a very, very small community. I don't even know if it's 5% of the populace, honestly. And I'm talking about like really hardcore crypto community people, not just people that bought some Bitcoin and then forgot about it. There's more of those people. But for the really like hardcore people that really care about crypto, it's a very small part of the community. And the overriding sentiment in the rest of the populace after like really just talking to people, seeing what they think about crypto in the United States, they think it's a scam. Well, they think most of it is a scam. They think it does need more regulations and customers need more protections. And, their opinion of Gary Gensler is not really that bad because Gary Gensler's only really made himself an ass to the crypto market. The rest of the market, they're actually okay with Gensler, and that's like the majority of people. And if you know anything, politicians ride off kind of like the wave sentiment of the rest of the people. And they're not going to care what 5% think. They're going to care about what the other 95% think. What the other 95% think, because that's going to be the overriding sentiment. And with FTX, with Terra Luna, those things are going to be driving their actions. Now, I have actually looked at Elizabeth Warren's assets, and surprisingly, like, she doesn't really have any single stock assets. She doesn't have any crypto. She doesn't have any really single stock assets either. Almost all her wealth is in some kind of like mutual fund or some kind of retirement pension fund. And those are like really long-term investments. She has actually supported the legislation that congressmen, which includes both House and Senate, by the way. Some people think Congress only means House. It means House and Senate. Congressmen and congresswomen obviously, should not be able to trade while they're in office. And this wouldn't affect her because she doesn't actually trade. She just long-term holds stuff. And she doesn't really hold single asset stocks. She holds mutual funds and she holds retirement funds. And that's actually like pretty much the bulk of her wealth. And it has been for a long, long time. So she hasn't actually traded. Unlike Nancy Pelosi, she hasn't really benefited really off insider information. Her investments, like for years and years, have just done really, really well. Now, whether she's made legislation to favor those investments, I won't comment on because I haven't really looked at that. But her actual investments are like long-term, like retirement pension funds and mutual funds. So she doesn't actually trade the way that Pelosi and some of the other senators do. But she is pretty wealthy. She has like $67 million off of those mutual funds. So think of that what you will. The other thing is, like, a lot of you will accuse Warren of like imminent corruption, and I think there is definitely some corruption with Gensler and such. But the thing about Warren you have to understand is like her record throughout the years just shows that she's basically anti-financial industry. It's not so much corruption, or it's not really so much corruption or anything. It's just that her feeling towards the financial industry as a whole is very much a huge amount of animosity for some reason or other. Like, the big banks don't like her. She doesn't like the big banks. Like, she doesn't like anyone in the financial industry. And unfortunately, because she's kind of uneducated about crypto, she really sees crypto as an extension of the financial industry. I mean, she's not really part of the crypto bro community, obviously, and she doesn't invest in crypto. I don't think she gets too much like campaign donations from crypto either. So the thing is, like, she doesn't really research too much into it, and she just sees it as an extension of the banking and finance industry, and therefore she hates it. And she hates it even more that it's unregulated and there's a lot of scams in it. Which, like, to be fair, there are more scams in crypto than in the overall finance industry, which is already fairly decently full of scams. And the thing is, like, I know some of you think that SBF and FTX was a plant by the government. I don't believe that. And you know why I really don't believe that? It's because scams happen in crypto all the time. You essentially have an industry that's kind of like just a free-flowing financial industry without any real constraints or real oversight. And there's like scams like every 2 weeks. FTX is just a larger version of a lot of the other scams. I mean, every other week, you essentially have like, oh my God, there was a massive hack and we lost $600 million. Oh my gosh, there is a massive hack and we just lost $100 million. And the thing is, like, when I look at them, like, man, these hacks are obviously inside jobs by programmers who basically programmed a back door into their thing and then they stole the money. I mean, you had like BitConnect and Davercoin and a bunch of those before. And then remember, like a couple of years ago, you had Quadringa CX and the CEO somehow died of Crohn's disease after going to India, and then like his zombie somehow resurrected 5 years later and started claiming the funds. I mean, you have stuff like that all the time. You have hacks and breaches every week or two, basically. And then you have like, these hackers that seem to be somehow connected with the developers in the first place, asking for giant ransoms. I mean, you literally had someone pay like 40% of the reserve as a ransom to some hacker. And that's just like way, way, way too much, honestly. So there's like these scams like every 2 weeks. If, crypto was a fairly clean industry and then all of a sudden FTX happened, to take down the industry, then I could actually believe you that FTX was a plant. But since the stuff like happens like every couple of weeks, no, they're just a bunch of scammers in a scammy industry, more or less. And I don't think even the most hardcore crypto advocates will not admit that crypto is kind of a scammy industry where like 95% of the projects are actually frauds. And if you've actually seen the video I did just a couple of days ago where basically someone on Crypto Eardy's like Twitter basically said, hey, thanks for all the true information. You're one of the few people that actually like delves true information on the XRP market. But I have to unsubscribe because I don't think the truth is kind of boring and it doesn't help me moon. I'm just like, what the hell? If you have an industry full of people like that without any oversight, you essentially have an industry full of people that are just like asking to be scammed, that are basically desperate to make money, asking to be scammed, asking to look for excitement. So you have like the perfect stew for people like Sam Bankman-Fried, like the BitConnect guys to actually come in and take advantage of them. And without any real oversight, they're going to do that. So it's no wonder that there's a bunch of scam artists in this industry. The industry is literally built for scam artists. And of course, Like Sam Bankman-Fried essentially just took advantage of a huge bull market and then got people to invest in this Ponzi scam, kind of like Bernie Madoff or Elizabeth Holmes. But he did it much faster because in an industry where there's no oversight, where everything's virtual, and he was actually smart because he donated to both politicians on both sides. One side kind of in the light, the other side using dark money. He had protection against the regulatory industries as well. So it's not really all that surprising that he was actually able to do what he actually did. And no, I don't believe it was a government plant because you have so many just scams overall in the crypto industry that you can't just say like every single one of them is a government plant, or even most of them are government plants. Sam Bankman-Fried just ran up the numbers much, much bigger than the other people. And I still think you're going to get more of this stuff in the past. And every time something like this happens, you're basically giving more ammo to the regulators to try to regulate it, to as an excuse to regulate it even more. And we all know that politicians do turn kind of a blind eye once they're actually getting money from certain parties. And then when it collapses, they try to like wash their hands clean out of everything. So the thing is, like, without regulation, you're definitely going to hit a lot of these things. And I know a lot of people in the crypto industry, like, we can self-regulate. It's pretty obvious to me after so many years, you can't self-regulate. Because like every time we have a bull run, the scam numbers just get bigger and bigger. More and more scammers pop up. It's more and more obvious that these are actually scams. If you want a free market, if you really want a free market with all this stuff, you can't really complain once like there's $1 billion fallout. But the problem is now the problem is, like, when it gets big enough, it actually affects the overall economy. And that's when politicians will really get involved. I mean, think about it this way. Sam Bankman-Fried, via Alameda Research and FTX, actually gave Alameda Research about a $65 billion line of credit. Now, he was only able to take about $8.8 billion of that. But if he had been allowed to go on until the next bull run, which he might well have been if CZ hadn't called him out, like, he would have lost $65 billion, possibly even more next time, because he would have extended the credit limit if he hit the $65 billion cap. And think about what a $65 billion loss would have meant both to the crypto markets and the overall financial market. It would have been absolutely disastrous. So the thing is, like, the fallout on the next bull run would have been much, much worse, and there'd be way, way more regulatory oversight. Now, thankfully for the crypto industry, we do have our advocates, and they are bipartisan advocates of both Democrats and Republicans, because there are crypto businesses in each state. But the opposition is also fairly bipartisan as well, because there are a lot of people that are in favor of these regulatory industries actually regulating crypto some more. And, cryptos, you're kind of stuck in like a catch-22, because without the general public actually getting into crypto, and big institutions getting into crypto, it's going to be hard to move up from like that $1 trillion market cap and really make money. But for the general public and institutions to come in, you do need regulations, because without the regulations, the crypto market's going to affect the overall financial market. And then if you have like a company like FTX losing hundreds of billions of dollars, that's going to cause a catastrophic recession or depression, which obviously the government, and both the government nor the politicians involved are going to allow, because it's going to look really bad on them. Once again, like, the FTX fiasco looks bad enough, but something like 10 times, 100 times greater can actually fall apart if you just let crypto go unregulated and companies build up higher and higher. And if you actually let, like, pension funds, retirement funds, state funds actually invest into these things. Because imagine had all those things invested into something like FTX without much supervision, and then it just completely collapsed because Sam Bankman-Fried over-leveraged like $100 billion. What would that actually look like for the entire financial market? People would want his head on a pike, obviously, but outside of that, like, it would be complete devastation for like the overall USA economy and the overall world economy as well. So the thing is, like, that's part of the reason that politicians are involved, besides their own corruptive influences. Now, once again, do I believe there's corruption between Elizabeth Warren and Gary Gensler? Yes. Do I think Elizabeth Warren is very well learned on crypto matters? No. She believes that crypto is just an extension of the financial industry, and it's an unregulated extension of the financial industry, and she believes it's full of scammers. And the thing is, like, with things like FTX, with things like Terra Luna, and these scams that happen every week, it's really hard to blame her, except for the fact that she didn't really take time to like really look at crypto for what the basis is. But if you look at the entire industry, it's really hard to blame someone like her for actually thinking the way she actually does and wanting to actually regulate it. But Gary Gensler really has no excuse because he actually taught this stuff at MIT and he should actually know what the basis of this is. He's just trying to extend the jurisdiction of the SEC, and the SEC is not playing by the rules. So yes, while I don't like the corruption, the thing is like, if people actually want crypto to move, there are going to have to be regulations because you need more of the general populace to actually come in. And the thing is like, for the general populace to come in, you are going to need more protections because if they're going to come in, they're going to lose a lot of money, and then they're going to like cry and scream, and then you're going to get really draconian regulations, like kind of almost what we're seeing right now. And then the White House, like today, is going to get involved as well to basically pressure people into like tighter regulations for the crypto market. They'll never truly be able to do it because crypto is more of a global thing, and other countries really aren't following our lead in all this, like Europe and Japan. But truthfully, like for the United States, they can really clamp down. And I think it's actually better to work out some regulations and oversight beforehand than wait until afterhand when everyone's already suffered and everyone wants to be really draconian. Because right now, outside the cryptoverse, the other 95% of society actually does have the overwhelming view that crypto does need to be more regulated. There does need to be more rules, and the oversight committees do actually need more power to rein this market in. And that's something that you really have to think about, because when it comes to elections and politicians, it's not like what the 5% think. It's about what the other 95% think, because they're the vast majority of the electorate. So don't get trapped in your little crypto bubble thinking that like this is how the world thinks, because that's not how the world actually thinks. If you go and talk to other people outside the industry, in regular society, even like investors, regular investors within financial mainstream, they don't think the same way that we do. And people like Elizabeth Warren are just playing off of that and their own biased perceptions of crypto. Gary Gensler knows what's going on, but he's going to be playing off of the public sentiment to increase the SEC's authority. So, let that sink in, because a lot of the time, we can say these politicians and officials are corrupt, and I'm sure a lot of them are. But for a large part, crypto is doing this to itself. So you can investigate, us in the cryptoverse, we can investigate Gary Gensler and Elizabeth Warren all we want. But the thing is, that's actually not the main problem and the main driving force for more draconian regulations if they happen. They happen because the industry has done this to itself by failing to self-regulate and failing to self-police. And the thing is, a lot of crypto people think it's a feature of the system. And if that's a feature of the system, then you're basically inviting draconian regulations in. Because, all these hacks, all these scams, all these scandals, they make it look really bad to the outside world. And that gives the regulators and lawmakers an excuse to really clamp down. So that's what I have to say for today. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button. Don't just rely on conspiracy theories and what you hear in the cryptoverse to form your opinion. Look out into the broader world as well, and you'll see how all these things are forming. And it's not all planned, it's not all a theory. It's just that the crypto market is just so scandalous that it kind of is collapsing on itself with the help of outside players. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.